Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Herald. I am your host, not Jon Herold. I'm sitting in for John. John's on vacation, much deserved, well-earned family vacation. We hope they're having an amazing time. And he asked me if I wanted to come hang out with you guys for in his slot, and I was like, you know what, I really do, because I miss you guys. We haven't done this kind of thing in a while, right? The 1 hour daily show. We used to do that every single morning, didn't we? And it's been a while, so I'm rusty. So keep that in mind. I also have a treat for you guys. I don't know if the treat is going to be cooperative, but there she is. The lily pad's back, and that would be fun. Plus, she'll make me feel a little bit less lonely. Sounds good. Let's see who we've got here. Let's say what's up to the folks in the chat. See Ramon 222. It's good to see you. What's up? Chickasaw Girl, Polymath. Oh, Polymath. I can't wait for you guys to do your Ether thing. I'm really interested in John Drake and Polymathodon are doing a Ether focus show here soon. And that's going to be fun. Fix Bayonet, good to see you. Salvage, good to see you. RC Joan. I bet RC Joan is happy that see all caps. Yay, lily pad. Yeah, she's here. She's in there. I don't have the light set up. You can't really see her super great, but yeah, there's actually kind of a lot of news, and we have to talk about how amazing Doge is for like the first half of the show, because that's what the show is dedicated to, right? Is how amazing Doge is. I think Doge is I think we have glimmers of Doge effectiveness happening. And we'll talk a little bit about some of that. There's big election news happening, so we're going to talk about that. And we'll get into all of it. Before we do, though, we have to talk about gold. It's officially a new era for gold and silver. Gold has broken 5,000 an ounce and silver has surged past $100. In 2025 alone, gold jumped 64% while silver skyrocketed 150%. And with political and economic uncertainty ahead, 2026 could bring even bigger moves. After such a historic run, a pullback is normal. Metals move fast, so some consolidation is expected, but top analysts are calling for even higher prices. We've seen the first bank failure of 2026. With regulators shutting down Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust in Chicago. Could more follow? It's no surprise Americans are pulling money from banks and turning to the proven protection of gold and silver. Big news, Goldco is celebrating America's 250th anniversary with a limited time bonus. Get up to 10% free gold or silver plus free storage and a free home safe with a qualifying cash purchase. This offer won't last, so act now. Are we seeing the early signs of another 2008 style crisis? Don't wait for the next shoe to drop. Protect your wealth with precious metals, because in uncertain time, gold and silver shine brightest. Visit badlandsgold.com today to get your free 2026 gold and silver kit and your bonus buy. That's badlandsgold.com. All right. So starting where we start with the Doge website update. There's no change. I think this is no change because it says January 26th or January 1st, 2026 is the last time that it was updated. So no change to the Doge website. I will say that the Doge website has never been my source of authority on whether or not Doge is doing things, because I think that this is a little bit of a little bit of a, I don't know, hype, a little bit of hype that we've got here. I will say a couple things that we see relative to potentially Doge related things. I think if Doge was effective, we wouldn't just see savings numbers published, and maybe we wouldn't see savings numbers published, but we might see savings numbers published, but not just that, because we would hope to see systemic changes come as a result of whatever they're finding in Doge, because it's not just about saving money, it's about restructuring. It's the transformation program, as I've been saying since since the election night. It's the transformation program that we're undergoing. So a couple things that I think are notable. Yesterday, the U.S. Small Business Association banned foreigners from accessing SBA-backed loans. This is a huge thing. It's very exciting to say that these people can't just come into our money and then we have to pay them to start a business when Americans don't get the same kinds of treatment. Read a little bit of this. Agency reserves federally guaranteed lending for American citizens. Today, in the effort to prioritize American job creators, the U.S. Small Business Administration issued a new policy notice to ban foreign nationals and non-citizens from accessing SBA guaranteed small business loans. The latest notice, which applies to the agency's Surabond and microloan programs, builds on the policy change earlier this month, which made any small business owned in whole or in part by a foreign national ineligible for the agency's flagship 504 and 7A loan programs. Small business owners applying for any SBA loan program must be U.S. citizens or U.S. nationals with their principal residence in the United States. And a quote from Loeffler here, SBA administrator, the Trump SBA is committed to driving economic growth and job creation for American citizens. Last month, we made it clear that SBA would not allow foreign nationals to access our core small business loan programs. And today we're expanding that policy to include all SBA guaranteed loans. With our lending authority capped annually by Congress and amid record demand for access to capital, our responsibility is clear. The limited resources of SBA financing must prioritize American citizens who are building businesses and creating jobs here at home. So that's good news, isn't it? I like that one. Thought that was a good one. We also got some news from who I think is kind of an underrated cabinet member. I'm a big fan. Eric Scott Turner. They have now put, hold on, go back to this view. These guys have put work requirements on, I had a actual written up thing of this. Work requirements and time limits on U.S. entitlement programs for unemployment, and states are getting on board. Sarah Huckabee Sanders came out and supported this. The proposed rules coming out through HUD are a springboard to the American dream. So this is setting time limits and caps and work requirements. If you are able-bodied and able-minded, then unemployment means you're looking for a job, you're working as much as you can, and hand up, not hand out, that whole thing. We're not, and entitlement programs are not intended to be a way of life for able-bodied, able-minded people. And I think we're seeing structural changes now in the rules, in the regulations, in the statutes, in the laws, even. We'll talk about some law changes too, that are, so we're not just identifying the fraud, right? Identifying where are these giant buckets of entitlement fraud, for example. We're actually changing the rules, so we're preventing these things from happening again in the future. And I think that is a good thing. So that's HUD. We had the SEC was holding a small business owner forum. So looking at ways that, how did they say this? Bringing together public and private sector voices. Public and private sector voices to discuss capital formation for entrepreneurs, small businesses, and smaller public companies. And in here, so they had their annual small business forum yesterday, unique event where the commission invites members of the public and private sectors to gather to provide feedback to improve capital raising policy for startups to smaller public companies and their investors. The event is hosted by the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation, pursuant to the Small Business Investment Incentive Act of 1980. Now, in some states, like in my state, we are hemorrhaging small businesses, but that's because the landscape for business here is hostile. We have people fleeing the state because as the federal subsidies dry up in my state and the spending refuses to cease or to wane, well, then they've got to find new revenue streams, right? So tax the people more, tax the businesses more, make it more painful. And what's happening then? People are leaving. And it's good to see. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the SEC. I think they've pretty much failed in all of their stated objectives of, making sure that there isn't corruption in capital markets, capital processes, and all of the like. I don't think they've been successful, but focusing on small businesses is good. And what's one of the things that obviously we are wholly committed to here at Badlands is the Make America Great Again, America First, Buy American, Source American, all of the American things. We actually think that's kind of a lucky proposition.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Softdisclosure.com. Use promo code Badlands. You want the brush, you want the beard oil, you really want the lotion. Lotion will change your skin. It actually restores, in our opinion, in my opinion, and the opinion of others that have used it, it restores your skin barrier. But those statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. And also the FDA has an allowable amount of maggots in canned goods. Do you know what the allowable amount of maggots in canned goods should be? Should be none. None maggots is the only allowable amount of maggots. And yet the Food and Drug Administration has an allowable amount. So, keep that in mind. Grain of salt with whatever they say or don't say. But I'm a big fan of the lotion. I really do think it's making my hands look younger, which is nice at my age. So we need all the help we can get. So softdisclosure.com, use promo code Badlands. One more thing here on kind of the structural changes. We don't often talk about these, these cabinet agencies, these SEC, SBA, HUD. We don't spend a lot of time on those guys, but that is where the change is going to happen. The structural change needed to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, and to put the right guardrails in place to prevent government from becoming corrupted, as it inevitably will be. So it's important to tune into them at some point. I did this last night while I was prepping to do this show. I set up it was the day after the election. Maybe it was the day after Inauguration Day. I set up a list in Twitter of all of the accounts of all of the federal agencies that I could find, not politicians. Like some of the politicians come into that feed because they've retweeted something, or because one of the agencies that I follow has retweeted the politician. But when you look at the different federal agencies, they're actually doing kind of a lot of stuff. It's not super sexy headline stuff, but they are doing things that are creating structural changes to, I think, a couple things: prevent waste, fraud, and abuse in line with the spirit and mandate of Doge, but also to unleash Americans to build the golden age, because the golden age is not something that's going to be built that we're going to go inhabit. Right? It is, in my opinion, a set of opportunities that we have. We're at a moment where we get to decide. We, the American people, get to decide what we're going to build, and I think we can build something new based on old principles. And there's nothing new under the sun, as God says, but based on old principles, but with the learnings of the past 250 years, what we've learned. How can our best efforts be corrupted? How is it that government will always grow itself, will always protect itself, will always subjugate the people if allowed to? How can we learn from that and change it? That, to me, is what the golden age is all about. So what I'm looking for in these agencies, like the shutting down of the Department of Education and moving core functions from that department into other agencies, right? Like the loan part of Department of Education moving into SBA and Department of Education going away. Those are the kinds of structural changes that I would expect to see if we were building the golden age. And that's, we showed a couple of them. We showed the work requirements on unemployment benefits. We showed some other structural things. Here's one more, and then we'll move off of this topic. U.S. Department of Labor issued new guidance streamlining registered apprenticeship, kind of a relaxing of standards around this so we can get more apprentices in, more people getting the hands-on work experience without a whole bunch of bureaucratic nonsense in front of it. So Department of Labor said today, U.S. Department of Labor issued new guidance to streamline registered apprenticeships. This guidance gives apprenticeship program sponsors clear direction on how to design programs that meet their workforce needs, outlines the role of states' apprenticeship agencies and councils, and clarifies how apprenticeship completion rates are determined. And that is intended to accelerate growth, reduce burdens, and improve transparency in the trades, right? So that's great. We need more of that, right? 5 minutes ago, you were considered a lesser in society by these people, not by us, obviously, but lesser in society if you were in the trades, or if you weren't going to college, right? If you weren't going to go to a 4-year university, there's, something wrong with you. What's wrong with you? No, actually, 4-year college is largely brainwashing, and it's where we get gender studies and all of the societal experiments that they put on us. That shit starts in academia. So, it's good. I think it's good to see these changes happening. It's fantastic, actually. All right. So the big thing that I want to talk about is elections. Couple things. So we're waiting on the SAVE Act in the Senate. SAVE Act, we're not going to belabor because everybody has talked about the SAVE Act. And as both me and Brian and John and others have said, the SAVE Act is a good first step, but it is not a silver bullet, and it doesn't restore free and fair elections. It doesn't give us real elections, the SAVE Act. It does, however, take care of fake voters. So if you watch Why We Vote, or Book Club, honestly, lately, or Wednesday's Badlands Daily, because all shows are Why We Vote now. We talk often about how election corruption, the election fraud, is across kind of 3 domains: fake voters, fake ballots, fake counts. Fake voters, you have inflated voter rolls, and people are registered to vote without eligibility checks. So when people celebrate Scott Pressler for registering unfettered amounts of voters, and oh my gosh, it's so great, we've got all these new Republican voters, if he's not checking eligibility, and I don't think he is, because if you check eligibility in voter registration and you're not a government official, you're going to be sued in like 2 seconds for voter suppression, voter intimidation, and asking unacceptable questions. He hasn't been, to my knowledge. But also, when I asked him about that, Scott Pressler, how he verified the eligibility of all of the voters that he was registering, he blocked me. So I don't think he is. So, when we're celebrating voter registration, yay, voter registration, if those people's eligibility is not checked, just because they're being registered for Republicans doesn't mean that that's not inflating the voter rolls. If you're not checking eligibility on voter registration, then you are inflating the voter rolls. Fake voters, big problem. The machine, the election fraud machine, doesn't work without fake voters. So the SAVE Act is very important, and it does solve part of the problem, but it doesn't solve the whole problem. We also have fake ballots and fake counts. That's what we're going to talk about here, because I'm kind of excited about this. First, Rich Higgins. So we have the SAVE Act, focus on citizenship, voter ID, dealing with the voters. How do we make sure that only eligible voters are voting in U.S. elections? We also have Clay Higgins, who is the U.S. Congressman for Louisiana's 3rd District, introduced legislation to stop unsolicited mail-in ballots, and petitions President Trump for support. Clay Higgins introduced the Mail Ballot Integrity Act, which would safeguard elections by prohibiting states from sending unsolicited mail-in ballots to voters. This legislation allows voters to request mail-in ballots for reasons such as illness, disability, military service, or travel, and establishes a uniform national standard for federal elections. Quote, "Trustworthy elections are a cornerstone of our republic. Our bill would end mass delivery of unsolicited mail-in ballots for federal elections," said Rep. Higgins. President Trump has made it clear that trust in our electoral system must be restored, which includes reforming mail ballot processes and passing the Save America Act. Alongside the introduction of the Mail-in Ballot Integrity Act, Congressman Higgins sent a letter to President Trump highlighting the legislation and calling for the White House's support. In your powerful State of the Union address, quote, "In your powerful State of the Union address on February 24th, 2026, you articulated the urgent need to eliminate crooked mail-in ballots except in legitimate limited cases such as illness, disability, military service, or travel. I respectfully ask that you give the Mail Ballot Integrity Act your full and fair consideration." This is actually really good. So when you combine this with the Save America Act, you have fake voters and fake ballots covered. Now we also have like ballot on demand printers, no standard audit, no followed anyway ballot custody procedures. So hopefully the Mail Ballot Integrity Act covers off those things. But you know, 5 minutes ago I was hearing in my Twitter comments and other contact methods, the Save America Act saves our elections. Why aren't you jumping up and down and so excited? Why aren't you and Brian, doing backflips about the Save America Act? Well, the Save America Act is good, but it's not the whole problem. Now we see that Rich Higgins is kicking in the second part of the problem, the Mail Ballot Integrity Act. So we're going to stop I also often very hyperbolically say that Jenna Griswold drops mail-in ballots from the sky here, because they do send mail-in ballots to everyone in the state, everyone that's on the voter rolls. And we have automatic voter registration based on the DMV. And we have a ton of fake voters, which Jenna Griswold signed a consent decree for here in my state and then didn't comply with her own agreement. And unfortunately, the court did not retain jurisdiction to be able to enforce it. So it was like, okay, yeah, we have massively inflated voter rolls. Sorry, nothing you can do about it. So fake voters, fake ballots. That's very exciting. And then we have, did I say Rich Higgins? Oh, folks at CanCon says Clay Higgins. I meant to say Clay Higgins. Did I say Rich Higgins? Guy's probably just on my head. In my head. Because his memo is so great. He died. CanCon says Rich Higgins died of COVID from Burnson. Tune in today at 6 p.m. Eastern, because this book is getting even more retarded, if that's possible. And last week we did learn that the two whistleblowers in this book blame Rich Higgins, not Clay, Rich Higgins, for giving him COVID. Apologies for saying Rich Higgins. I did not mean to say Rich Higgins. I meant to say Clay Higgins. All these Higgins. Was that the guy's name in My Fair Lady? Is his name Higgins? Henry Higgins? No? Maybe? Okay, anyway. Sorry. Apologies. Thank you for the correction. So, fake voters, fake ballots. And now we see that the FBI got a grand jury subpoena related to the Senate, the Arizona Senate, and Maricopa County's compliance with the Arizona Senate, looking at, I think, based on what I've read, it appears, CanCon, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at 2020, 2022, and 2024 in Maricopa County. And that is awesome. So I thought that we would go back. Oh, Higgins was Magnum PI's right-hand man too. Nice. Yeah, Professor Henry Higgins. Yeah, that's a good movie. I'm gonna watch that again. Okay, so I thought we'd go back to 2020 and look at what happened. So the conduct of Maricopa County is in 2020 and 2022 and 2024, which we'll talk about in a second. But in 2020, the conduct of Maricopa County in the context of in the wake of the 2020 election and the questions about the 2020 election and Fox News calling Arizona insanely early in the 2020 election. We're going to look at their conduct because the FBI is now investigating it. But first, we're going to hear from another one of our sponsors. Thank you, Jessica. All right, parents, real talk for a second. America is about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and not just hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free with this special offer. You just need to pay $2 for shipping and processing. Head to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. And the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. That's very cool. I'm so excited about America's 250th birthday because I love this country so much. And it is so awesome when we all just come together and celebrate. And the fun thing about Freedom 250, President Trump's America 250 celebration that spans the end of June through the 4th of July, the first day of that celebration is the first day of Gart Deadwood. And they just announced like yesterday or the day before that they're bringing the fireworks back, the 4th of July fireworks back to Mount Rushmore. So it's all very exciting. 250 years, you guys. They've tried to destroy America so many times and they've come close, man. Since the beginning of America. I mean, Alexander Hamilton was like immediately pushing for a central bank and expansive government and standing army, right? Like immediately, because bureaucracy is going to do what it does. Immediately they tried to degrade it, but divinely inspired can't kill freedom. The American spirit is different. America is the greatest nation in the history of Earth. So that's what I think. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, let's talk. Let's talk about, let me see if I can zoom in on this. So I made this timeline back in 2021 when it was right after the Maricopa County audit report came out. And Brian and I were doing a podcast together on his YouTube channel covering this and the similarities between the Mesa County reports that came out. I think at this point, at the point that the Maricopa audit report came out, there was only the first Mesa County report, but it was notably, and we were talking about this then, same sources and methods across states that we see. But the Maricopa County audit was particularly egregious. And I am very excited that this conduct is now being looked at by federal authorities. So I'm going to go through this timeline because I think it's important that everyone understands the things that we know about Maricopa's conduct in 2020. And it's particularly important because this is a federal investigation and the records associated with this are with the FBI. The runback of it all, Shelby Bush's 2022 investigation, drawer 3 investigation and lawsuit, drawer 3 in the 2022 election. And there were also problems in Maricopa in 2024 with regards to Runbeck and the role that Runbeck was put in place. So we're going to read through kind of what happened with this audit, and then we'll talk about kind of what it means. And Brian and I will be discussing some of this on Friday's Why We Vote, probably a little bit on today's book club, probably a little bit on tomorrow's Badlands Daily. But this is important. Like, we all lived this. It was painful. A lot of people checked out, right? But important to realize. So November 3rd, Fox News calls Arizona insanely early. November 4th, the election lawsuits begin. The 13th of November, Maricopa completes its canvass, which is, the count, 10 days after the election. November 30th, and this is still 2020, November 30th is the day that Rudy Giuliani presents to legislators in the Arizona legislature. On December 15th of 2020, the Senate subpoenas Maricopa County for all election equipment and records. December 18th, Maricopa sues to fight the subpoenas. On the 27th of January, Maricopa ordered an audit from Pro V&V and SLI compliance. And there's my descriptions in here get snarkier as this thing goes on. So just warning, it's coming. February 8th, Senator Boyer votes Republican voted to prevent contempt charges. Contempt for not complying with the subpoena. Why does that make that thing go away? I'm trying to do this. Yeah. Okay. On February 11th of 2021, 462 log files were manually overwritten in Maricopa County. This is a finding from the audit. Anytime we have something in there like that, where it's like this happened in the machines, these are findings from the audit. Now, you wouldn't have heard these findings from the audit because they didn't, they really told us, all the news really told us about the audit was 99 more votes. Biden got 99 more votes than Trump. Biden got 99 more votes. Don't you see? He got 99 more votes. Don't pay attention to all of these log files. So I go through it. 462 log files were manually overwritten on February 11th. On February 23rd, the Maricopa audit, the one that they ordered from the testing labs. These are the testing labs that Clay Parikh used to test for, Pro V&V. Maricopa audit, again, February 23rd of 2021, found no issues. Note that the audit companies are the voting system testing labs. I wrote an article on them. These companies may face liability if they reveal election fraud, so it's not surprising that they didn't find anything. It's their job to call everything amazing and super compliant, and that is true. There are, ostensible processes if they find a problem when they're testing the trusted builds and testing the election systems, but they don't find problems. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Anybody with any even just a light touch in the technology space, know that acceptance testing doesn't find anything. That's strange. February 26th, Maricopa loses their subpoena fight in court as a judge rules that they must provide the election equipment and records. Spoiler alert, they still don't. They never complied with the subpoena, which is why them looking at this conduct is awesome. All right, March 3rd, 2021, 37,686 log files were manually overwritten. On the 31st, Karen Fann, the Senate president, announces cyber ninjas will quarterback the audit. 12th of April, another 330 log files were manually overwritten. On the 22nd of April, the Arizona DNC innocently sued to stop the audit. On the 5th of May, the Biden DOJ tells the Arizona Senate to stop the audit. On the 7th of May, Karen Fann said that she paused the door-to-door verification that was happening that Liz Harris was leading. That's going to come back around here at the end. But also, she can't do that. Just FYI. And I know that because I proved it in federal court. Canvassing to check the government's work is absolutely lawful First Amendment activity. All right, moving right along. Fan pauses door-to-door verification. Karen Fann tries to reason with Maricopa County on the 12th of May. Come on, guys, just comply with the subpoenas. Didn't go well. And then on the 14th of May, the auditors, the Cyber Ninjas auditors, needed an extension. I can't imagine why they needed an extension, considering that Maricopa County was obstructing all of their efforts. All right, moving into May 20th, Secretary of State Hobbs, Katie Hobbs, decertified the machines. On July 14th, we're still in 2021. Maricopa County, this whole thing is in 2021. July 14th, Maricopa votes to buy more Dominion machines. July 15th, the preliminary damning audit findings were delivered to the Senate. And this is where I think they concocted their kind of wrap-up smear type plan for the 99 vote thing, because we got early in July of that year, we got a sneak peek at what the audit results found. And it found all like things like tens of thousands of audit log files, system logs were overwritten. Same thing that we see in the Mesa County reports, right? So they, in my opinion, start concocting their plan for how they're going to handle the very damning findings that come out. It says, I have a subnote here. Note, they were damning, and while some of the preliminary findings were later revised due to new information, the final report was much, much worse. I think that's true. And in my in today's brief, the timeline image is in there, and underneath it is a link to the article that this timeline is in context. So it also has a lot of the more detailed audit findings from Cyber Ninjas and Ben Cotton and all of those guys. July 26th, the Senate issues another subpoena for the same election items, because no one in government ever gets held accountable. If you guys got a subpoena and you just said, nah, I'm not going to participate in that. Nah. What do you think would happen? I don't think what would happen is what happened to these guys, because what happened to these guys is nothing. August 2nd, Maricopa violates yet another subpoena. August 23rd, I'm telling you guys, they never complied with these subpoenas. So when we hear that the federal government is looking at the conduct of Maricopa County, and that's what John Solomon said in Just the News, the conduct of Maricopa County, this is the conduct. The conduct is obstruction and destruction of evidence. The big lie is the big lie. August 23rd, the audit report was delayed because of COVID. God, that was the gift that kept on giving, wasn't it? On the 26th of August, Arizona Attorney General Brnovich threatened to withhold funding with regards to the compliance. So we're not gonna give you your funding, Maricopa, if you don't comply with the subpoena. They still didn't comply with the subpoena. August 30th, Liz Harris, shout out to Liz Harris and everybody in Arizona who basically told Karen Fan to GTFO and did the canvas anyway. They released their findings they revealed, well, on the 30th of August, they revealed that they were still doing it. On the 9th of September, they revealed their findings, similar to what we found in Colorado when we did the canvas, the canvassing. Absolutely insane. And the 16th, Fan announced that the audit report would be released on the 24th. On the 17th, we were told that they'd reached a settlement with Maricopa on the non-compliance on the subpoenas. It is my understanding, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but the routers were never turned over. So that also was BS. On the 22nd of September, Maricopa Supervisor Steve Shukri resigned. And then on the 23rd, the day before, the auditors went into the Arizona Senate and for like 3 hours released very detailed findings of all manner of problems. The day before, the report was leaked to reporters, and they all came out and said, well, this report just shows that Biden got 99 more votes. What are we even doing? What a waste. Oh my gosh, we just went through this whole effort in such a waste to find out that Biden really did win and he really got 99 more votes than Trump than originally reported for Trump. That was the day before the actual results were reported. So nobody paid attention to the Senate hearing. Nobody paid attention to the results. O'Brien says they were eventually turned over to a quote unquote special master. Sure. And then on the 24th, they did their report. In my article, that is, again, here, I'll show you guys. It's in the Badlands News Brief. You can zoom in on this timeline, read this timeline here, or go into the 2021 report, my 2021 report about the Maricopa audit. And it combines the Maricopa findings and the Mesa findings to posit that we are seeing the same sources and methods across states to rig elections. And I think this is September of 2021. And I think we indisputably know now that that's true. All right. I'm going to check in on the chat because I've been forgetting to do that. And I know that that's a big part of how Jon runs this show. Elf Boy says, hit the like, please, and thanks. Thank you for that. I also forgot to ask for that. So yeah, I will definitely appreciate that. It helps us out wherever you're watching, whether it's a like button or a heart or a pill or something else we haven't even thought of yet. It helps us out if you hit that like button. So please do it. Howard G. Duck says, paging Stephen Richer. Yeah, I wanted to troll him yesterday on X, and I was told to stand down by my illustrious co-host, who still thinks that guy is ever going to come back on our show, which I find to be hilarious. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Rebel Nader says, it's going to be flabbergasting when the truth of Arizona elections comes out. Maricopa is red. Yeah, I think a lot of the country is red, and we've just been gaslit about it by the people who rig or not even rig. I wouldn't even say rig anymore. I would say conduct fake elections. Let's see. Go says, I hope they're using Ashe's research and summation in their investigations. This has been out since 2021. I read this timeline in 2021. And I know that, like, some of the attorneys like Kurt Olson and Brian Blem are absolutely aware of this work. And we're going to get into the Runbeck stuff here in a second. But this is not new information. None of this stuff about the conduct is new. We all watched the conduct of Maricopa County. We watched them repeatedly violate subpoenas, lawful subpoenas from the Senate. Now, if you contrast that to what we saw happen with Tina Peters, for example, or a better example is Dallas and Rhonda in Elbert County. They took images. They had their own election records. And the full weight of the state of Colorado and the federal government came down on Elbert County, Colorado. And this is in the wake of Tina Peters. And so they're, active. They were at the time actively changing the law so that counties really had no power. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Jess Koch says, I think Ashe, I don't want to be a law enforcement officer. I putting the cuffs on would be cool though. That would be fun. Let's see what else we got here. Joe Gilmore says Donald Trump has pardoned Tina Peters, a former elections clerk convicted of state crimes related to unauthorized access to voting machines during the 2020 presidential election. No. Tina Peters was not convicted of anything having to do with election machines at all. This is part of the big lie, and part of why I pull my hair out and scream at the sky that everybody is lying about this case, because it is to the benefit of all of the different people telling all different stories. It's to their benefit to say that Tina Peters was convicted of election crimes. If Tina Peters was convicted of election crimes, her federal pardon would hold, in my opinion. But she wasn't. She didn't. There was no election breach. There was no breach. There was a copy made of the system. There was also a copy made of the system in Elbert County. And those guys didn't go, they didn't even get criminal charges, let alone go to prison. The storytelling around this, that this case is about elections, it serves everybody except Tina Peters. And the more that people advance narratives, this is my opinion, but the more that people say things like Tina Peters did nothing wrong, I think it hurts her. because the state's benefit harm theory of the case is that she did what she did to be famous. She wanted to be seen as a martyr. She wanted to be seen as a hero. She wanted to be on the plains and on the stages and be, you know, adored and all of the things. And saying that she did nothing wrong is very easily debunkable, because the thing that she did wrong, the thing that gets her 8 years and 3 months, 8 years and 3 months of the sentence, is a misrepresentation of Conan Hayes as Jerry Woods. And here's where people get mixed up. That misrepresentation was not made to give Conan Hayes access to election machines or to get him into some sort of capacity where he could engage in a breach. It was to observe. It was to observe what the Secretary of State and the vendors were doing with the trusted build. He didn't touch a thing when he was in there. He watched. That's it. He watched what was going on while he was in there. She stipulated to that fact that she had misrepresented Conan Hayes as Jerry Woods in her trial. Stipulated to it, meaning they didn't have to prove it at trial. It was a fact that was accepted. And then they prevented her from saying why she did it. And then they characterized why she did it to the jury. The whole thing was a show trial. But that part of it, of saying, well, she was convicted, she needs to be pardoned because what she was convicted of was protecting the elections. I absolutely believe that Tina Peters was taking those images and getting that data, those backups, because she thought election records were going to be destroyed in her county. They were, by the way. And she felt it was her duty to preserve those records. Wasn't to be a hero, wasn't because she wanted to be internet famous, no matter how many times the state says it. But regardless, they can't say that to the jury, characterize her intent to the jury, and then not allow her to dispute it. That poisons the jury on every single count, in my opinion, because they've given her an intent that she's not allowed to defend against. To me, pardon, clemency, all of that nonsense. If I were her, and I am not her, and it's easy to say outside walking around free. So keeping that in mind, if I were her, I wouldn't want clemency, certainly not from Polis. But I don't think that the lies about Tina Peters and why she did what she did and what she actually did and all of those things, those lies should not stand. And if we get a pardon or we get clemency in place, then they do. Then the story sort of stays the story. And I want her to be out of prison. I think it's absolutely retarded that she's been in prison to begin with. But if she gets clemency, and Jared Polis is damn near begging to grant her clemency, I think that only helps Jared Polis, because it makes him look libertarian and middle of the road, and he's going to run for president and everything's going to be fine. And it, yes, lets Tina Peters out of prison, but it locks in the story, their bullshit story about what she did and why she did it. Everybody says this case is about election crimes. It's not. It's about a single misrepresentation, one misrepresentation made to 3 people, and the conspiracy to commit that misrepresentation. And that conspiracy charge is very much in question on the appeal based on what the appellate court said. That's 8 years and 3 months for a single misrepresentation to the office of a person who lies to us all the time. And as I talked about on my show last night, the Jenna Griswold BIOS password breach is so much worse, not because of the breach. Let's take what they say as true, right? Let's pretend like it was a just scratch paper oversight, no harm, no foul, nobody anything, right? Well, the problem with that is that they didn't tell anybody that it happened in the middle of 2 active election events. They had all of these passwords compromised. They had no oversight or visibility into who was going in and out of the clerk's offices during those months and months of time. They then lied to everyone and said that there was no breach and we've already investigated it and it's fine. And then we get the Deputy Secretary of State on a call basically saying, well, we weren't going to tell anybody, because if we told anybody, it would cause a media storm. And we don't want a media storm. But you can't verify that there's not a breach if you haven't told anybody, because the clerks have the machines. So they admitted, and it's proven, to a massive cover-up, another massive cover-up in Jenna Griswold's office. They investigated themselves and everything's fine. It's not going to be fine forever. I don't think you can hide the truth forever. I'm just looking at the time. We got to move on. But I wasn't going to have enough to talk about. Ramon says Tina needs to be exonerated on the facts. I think that I think that this case and the Colorado government in particular, on not just the Tina case, but the Dallas and Rhonda case, what happened to me and my co-defendants, other similar things happened to other groups. That is clear-cut weaponization of government. And when you are weaponizing the government to cover up the fact that you stole elections, we're way off the reservation. So yeah. But I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer to it. All right. So we'll hold on that there. There's more about that whole thing in today's brief. We'll be talking more and more about it as the story develops. And of course, we're still waiting for the appeal decision in Tina Peters' case, which will, advise this whole situation more. In my opinion, there was one other election just before we get off the Maricopa topic entirely. Spetzel says, where can we find a copy of your Maricopa timeline? In today's brief, it's the top story in the brief, and the link to the timeline and the link to the article that I made the timeline for, so it puts it in context, are in the caption of the image of the timeline. So today's brief, badlands.substack.com. You can find it in there. Okay, so on Sunday, Mark Elias posted, let me share this. Mark Elias posted, for 30 years, I fought hard in court to protect elections. But in 2020, I started something new, an independent media platform. Democracy Docket is fiercely independent. Sure. Okay, buddy. No corporate owners. It never backs down. Support its work. Subscribe today. Notice how since the USAID funding was cut and a lot of those funding channels, those dark money funding channels dried up, there's a lot of people out there begging for donations, begging for subscription fees. Please support us. Please. We can't do it. Like the EI-ISAC and the MS-ISAC, the advisory councils. These were pseudo-governmental public-private entities that were funded through our tax dollars. Now they're begging counties and states to subscribe to them. So Mark said that, everybody please subscribe. And then Jesus Osti, who is in the DOJ Civil Rights Organization, says, when are you going to write about the L you got today in Arizona federal court? And that is, of course, story that we have going on, where we have a federal investigation, ongoing investigation in Arizona into the conduct of Maricopa County. And that's got to have a lot of people really, really freaked out. All right. I'm not going to mention foreign policy stuff. If you want to watch foreign policy stuff, go watch today's Badlands Daily, because Ghost was on. So there's like an hour and a half of foreigner stuff that you can, the only foreigner story that I want to talk about today is the fact that the SBA has prohibited foreigners from getting U.S. small business loans. That is amazing. Amaze balls. All right. We had 2 votes. I don't know. This might have happened already. I haven't checked, but the Senate was voting on a promotion for Joshua Rudd to go from Lieutenant General to Real General. For processing, I'll pull this up. And also, all right. So Lieutenant General Rudd, I was going to read some of his, again, I thought we were going to run out of time. I was going to read some of his bio, but I'll just put it in the chat for you guys. And then they are also voting, as you can see, on an amendment for HR 6644. And I thought it would be worthwhile to just check out the bill summary on this, because I think we're about, as they're moving to invoke cloture and start debating this thing. So I think we're going to start to hear some hysterics around it from all the peoples. So I thought we'd read the bill summary and try and get a little bit ahead of it. Housing for the 21st Century Act bill revises federal housing programs, including by expanding available financing for affordable housing and provide grants for planning and community development activities. For example, the bill increases the statutory maximum loan limits for mortgage insurance programs insured by FHA for multifamily homes and requires the use of more specific inflation index for such loans. The bill also increases maximum eligible income for the Department of for HUD, the Home Investment Partnerships Program in HUD, that is grants to states and localities to support housing for low-income households, and establishes a grant program to assist regional, state, and local entities with strategies to support affordable housing. It exempts certain housing-related activities from environmental review, including certain construction, improvement, and rehabilitation of residential buildings. That's huge in terms of making housing more accessible in certain communities. The regulations and the restrictions on construction, particularly the green stuff, has strangled development, and it's made all of that cost associated with complying with regulations gets packed into the price that ultimately gets passed on to us. So that's a big deal. Excludes veterans' disability benefits from being considered as income for purposes of determining eligibility for Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program. I don't really know what that is, except maybe it's double count. They're avoiding double counting. And then eliminates the requirement that manufactured homes must be constructed with permanent chassis. Authorizes HUD to conduct performance reviews of organizations that provide housing counseling services. That's cool too. Like, get those leftist organizations that are packing our, subsidized housing meant for Americans, low-income Americans, packing a bunch of foreigners into there. Get them out of here. Get those housing counseling services people. Hold them accountable. Eric Scott Turner. So that's, I think we're going to start to see some, angst and hysterics about this bill as it moves through the Senate. So I'll put this in here. You guys can read the full text if you want to. And looking at the time, we have a couple of Rumble reacts. We have the Lily Pad Cam, Artsy Joan, $20. Thank you so much for Lily Pad Cam Light. Thanks for sitting in, as you're always worth a listen. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, I have a light. I just need to figure out how I need to get this into a permanent situation, because it's very duct tape and popsicle sticks right now. And if I were to move just a little to the left and bump it, it would be you guys, I don't know if you noticed, but like, I'm on this side, and the soft disclosure, I moved to the other side. I had to put my discombobulator over here because I had to move far enough away from the camera down here where I wasn't, so you can see my hands right here, so I wouldn't bump her. That's, yeah, it's a thing. But thank you, Joan. Salvage says $5 or $10 challenge, movie ticks, 15 Ashe more entertaining, taco and a tip, $5 Ashe spicier, show the love if you're able. I don't even know what to make about that, but now I definitely want tacos. Maybe I'll go get tacos for lunch. It's your first time checking the Doge website for updates, and you're already better at it than John, says Babbage 3. Hey man, Jon Herold keeps all of us honest. He definitely will go right at the hopium and make you understand and prove your case and say why you believe the things that you believe. And there is nothing more valuable than that in the information war. And I know it's made me better. I know a lot of other folks would probably agree, and we don't deserve him. He's the best. If anybody comes in here talking shit about John, I will ban you forever. And actually, I won't, because you know why? Because he wouldn't let me. He'd be pissed. You came in here and talked shit about John, and I got all like mama bear and mad about it and banned you. He would be mad at me because he's awesome. All right. Let's see. Final thoughts. Everybody's whining about the partial DHS shutdown for 24 days. There's apparently flight delays because of TSA. You know how we can fix that? Just ban TSA. I don't think we need that shit anyway. All right, I'm going to get out of here. God help us. I think I did all the ads. Yes, I think so. Okay. Tomorrow I will be on Badlands Daily. Then I'll be on this show. We're doing this again tomorrow. It'll be a little bit shorter because on Wednesday tomorrow at 2:00, Ghost of Base Patrick Henry and I have our part 3 of Tuckabee and
The Jews.
part 3 tomorrow at 2 p.m. Hopefully that'll be the last part. It's my earnest desire is that it's the last part. But yeah, thanks guys so much. Please hit the like button wherever you're watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys tonight on Badlands Book Club with Brian and Colonel Towner, where we will discuss this maddening book even more. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day.
Extra, extra, read all about it. 2, 3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me? Stopping me.